I came home early to surprise my husband for our anniversary and got the biggest surprise of my life instead. But here's the thing about surprises, they work both ways, and mine was going to be much, much bigger than theirs. I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening to my story from. I want to know how far my truth has traveled. The morning of our 15th wedding anniversary started like any other Wednesday. I was in my catering kitchen by 5 a.m., prepping for a corporate lunch that afternoon. The familiar rhythm of chopping vegetables and seasoning sauces usually calmed my nerves, but that day something felt different. Maybe it was the way Mark had barely acknowledged our anniversary that morning, rushing out with just a quick peck on my cheek and a mumbled "see you tonight." For weeks I'd been noticing small changes in my husband. Late-night phone calls he'd take in the garage, text messages that made him smile in ways I hadn't seen in years. And my sister Jessica had been coming around more often, always when Mark was home, always with some excuse about needing to borrow something or wanting to discuss our family's upcoming reunion. Jessica had always been the family beauty, the one who'd never quite found her footing after her divorce 3 years ago. I thought maybe Mark was being a good brother-in-law, offering support during her transition. I was proud of him for being so caring, but then came the little things that didn't quite add up. Like the expensive bottle of massage oil I'd found in Mark's gym bag, still in its wrapper. When I'd asked him about it, he'd said it was for his back pain, but I'd never seen him use it. Or the way Jessica would suddenly change the subject whenever I walked into a room where she and Mark were talking. Or how my husband had started showering immediately when he came home from work, something he'd never done in 15 years of marriage. The breaking point came 2 weeks before our anniversary. I'd gone to Jessica's apartment to drop off some leftover catering food using the spare key she'd given me for emergencies. She wasn't there, but her laptop was open on the kitchen counter, and I couldn't help but notice Mark's name in an open chat window. I know I shouldn't have looked. Trust is supposed to be the foundation of any relationship, whether it's marriage or sisterhood. But curiosity got the better of me, and what I saw made my blood freeze. Can't wait for Sarah's big catering event next week. She'll be working late every night. More time for us. The response from Mark's account was even worse. "I know, baby, soon we won't have to sneak around anymore. Once the business transfer goes through, everything will be different." Business transfer? What business transfer? I quickly took photos of the conversation with my phone, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it steady. There were dozens of messages going back months. Intimate messages, planning messages, messages about meetings with lawyers and accountants, messages about how they couldn't wait to get rid of the dead weight and start their new life together. That dead weight was me. I left Jessica's apartment feeling like I was drowning. 15 years of marriage, 25 years of sisterhood, and 10 years of building my catering business from nothing to one of the most successful in the city. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd believed in, was a lie. But I didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, I did what I do best. I planned. Over the next 2 weeks, I hired a private investigator named Robert Chen. I'd found his information in the business directory, and his reviews spoke of discretion and thoroughness. When I met him at a coffee shop downtown, I explained the situation as clinically as possible, showing him the text messages I'd photographed. "Mrs. Williams," he said, reviewing the evidence, "I understand this is difficult, but I need to ask, what exactly are you hoping to achieve? Are you planning to divorce your husband?" I stirred my coffee slowly, considering his question. "I'm not sure yet. First, I need to know everything. The extent of their relationship, their plans for my business, what legal steps they've already taken. I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with before I decide how to respond." Robert nodded, making notes. "I'll need a few days to do a thorough investigation. Phone records, financial documents, surveillance if necessary. Can you provide me with some basic information about both your husband and your sister?" I gave him everything. Their schedules, favorite restaurants, gym memberships, even their social media passwords that I'd managed to obtain. Mark had always been careless with technology, using the same password for everything. Our anniversary date. The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 days later, Robert called with preliminary findings that made my stomach turn. "Mrs. Williams, I'm afraid the situation is more extensive than we initially thought. Your husband and sister have been involved romantically for approximately 8 months. They've had 17 documented meetings at various hotels throughout the city. Additionally, they've consulted with 3 different law firms about business acquisition procedures. Business acquisition? It appears they're planning to transfer ownership of your catering company to a new entity that would exclude you entirely. The paperwork is quite sophisticated. They've been planning this for months. I felt the room spinning around me. Not only were they betraying me personally, but they were actively working to steal the business I'd built with my own hands. The late nights, the sacrificed weekends, the years of barely breaking even while establishing my reputation, they wanted to take it all. There's more, Robert continued. I have audio recordings of several conversations where they discuss their timeline. They're planning to present you with divorce papers next month, immediately after your sister's birthday party. They want to use the family gathering as cover, knowing you won't make a scene in front of relatives. And the business? They believe they can force you to sell your share at a significantly reduced price by leveraging the emotional trauma of the divorce. Your sister has already secured a business loan using forged documents that list her as a co-owner of your company. That was the moment everything changed. The hurt and betrayal crystallized into something much colder and more focused. They weren't just breaking my heart, they were stealing my life's work, and they were planning to humiliate me in front of our entire family while doing it. Robert, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I need you to document everything, every meeting, every conversation, every legal document, and I need it all ready by this weekend. What are you planning, Mrs. Williams? I smiled for the first time in weeks, though I suspected it wasn't a pleasant expression. I'm planning the surprise of a lifetime. That afternoon, I went to my catering kitchen and began preparing for the most important event I'd ever hosted. Not a wedding or corporate lunch, but my anniversary dinner. Mark had suggested we stay home, order takeout, and keep it simple. Now I understood why. He probably had plans with Jessica afterward. But I had other ideas. I spent hours preparing Mark's favorite meal, herb-crusted lamb with roasted vegetables and a chocolate soufflé for dessert. I selected our best wine, arranged flowers throughout the house, and even bought a new dress, a stunning red number that would look perfect on camera. Because this anniversary dinner was going to be recorded. While the lamb was in the oven, I strategically placed 3 tiny cameras around our house, one in the living room, one in the kitchen, and one in our bedroom. They were so small they looked like decorative buttons, and I'd practiced positioning them until I could do it blindfolded. Robert had provided them along with his final report, which was even more damning than I'd expected. Apparently Mark and Jessica had been meeting at our house on the days when I worked late. They'd been using our bed, our shower, our kitchen. Jessica had even been wearing my jewelry during some of their encounters, pieces that Mark had given me for previous anniversaries. The violation felt complete. At 6:30, I changed into my red dress and waited. Mark came home at 7, looking surprised by the elaborate setup. Wow, Sarah, this is really something. You didn't have to go to all this trouble. It's our anniversary, I said, pouring him a glass of wine. 15 years deserves a celebration. He smiled, but I could see the guilt in his eyes, now that I knew what to look for. The way he avoided direct eye contact, the nervous laugh, the way he kept checking his phone. Are you expecting a call? I asked innocently. Oh no, just work stuff. You know how it is. But I did know how it was. His work stuff was coordinating with my sister about when to come over after I supposedly left for my evening prep session. We ate dinner making small talk about my business, his job at the marketing firm, plans for the upcoming holidays. It was surreal, sitting across from someone who was actively planning to destroy my life while pretending everything was normal. Sarah, he said as I served the soufflé, I've been thinking about our future lately. My heart started racing, but I kept my expression neutral. Oh, well, we've been married 15 years, and I wonder if we've grown in different directions. You're so focused on your business, and I feel like we barely connect anymore. The projection was breathtaking. He was the one who'd stopped making effort in our marriage, who'd started working late and being distant. But now he was setting up the narrative that would justify their planned betrayal. I think we connect just fine, I said carefully. Don't you? He shifted uncomfortably. I suppose it's just sometimes I wonder what it would be like to start fresh. You know? New city, new opportunities. With the catering business? Actually, I've been thinking you might want to consider selling it. We could relocate, maybe somewhere warmer. You could start a smaller operation, something more manageable. There it was, the first move in their game plan. Sell the business I've spent 10 years building? I know it sounds drastic, but think about it. No more 16-hour days, no more weekend events, no more stress about payroll and inventory. We could have a real life together. The irony was staggering. He was talking about having a real life together while planning to divorce me and steal my company. Let me think about it, I said, refilling his wine glass. It's a big decision. Of course, no pressure. I just want us to be happy. After dinner, Mark suggested watching a movie, but I could see him checking his phone every few minutes. Finally, around 9:30, I made my move. I just remembered I left some paperwork at the kitchen that needs to be filed tonight. Insurance stuff for tomorrow's event. I should probably run over there and take care of it. Mark tried to hide his relief. Are you sure? It's getting late. It'll only take an hour. You relax. Maybe take a bath. I know your back's been bothering you. That's a great idea. I think I will. I kissed him goodbye, grabbed my keys and left through the front door. But instead of getting in my car, I circled around to the back of our house and settled into the gardening shed, where I had a perfect view of our bedroom window. I didn't have to wait long. 20 minutes after I'd left, Jessica's car pulled into our driveway. She used her key. When had Mark given her a key to our house, and went inside like she belonged there? Through the bedroom window, I watched my husband greet my sister with a passion I hadn't seen from him in years. They kissed like teenagers, desperate and hungry, and I had to grip the windowsill to keep from storming inside immediately. But I waited. I watched. I recorded everything on my phone as backup to the hidden cameras. I watched them use the massage oil I'd found in his gym bag. I watched Jessica put on my anniversary earrings, the ones Mark had given me just 3 years ago. I watched my husband and my sister plan my destruction in between their moments of intimacy. The lawyer said we'll have the divorce papers ready by Friday, Jessica whispered, running her fingers through Mark's hair. And the business transfer documents should be finalized next week. Good. I can't keep pretending much longer. Did you see how she was looking at me tonight? Sometimes I think she knows something. Sarah's clueless. She always has been. Too trusting, too focused on her precious little catering business to notice what's happening right under her nose. After we get control of the company, we can expand it properly. Maybe franchise the concept. Sarah never had the vision to really grow it. They talked about my business like it was already theirs. They discussed which employees they'd fire, which contracts they'd renegotiate, which locations they'd close. They had detailed plans for dismantling everything I'd built and rebuilding it in their image. But the worst part wasn't the business discussion, or even watching them together physically. The worst part was listening to them laugh about me. Remember last Christmas when she spent 3 days making that elaborate dinner for your family? Jessica giggled. She was so proud of herself, running around like a little housewife. And my mother kept going on about what a treasure Sarah was, how lucky I was to have such a dedicated wife. If only she knew. They found my dedication amusing. My hard work was a joke to them. My love for my family, my marriage, my business, all of it was just entertainment for their private moments. I watched until I couldn't stand anymore, then crept back to my car and drove to my catering kitchen to wait. I needed time to process what I'd seen, to finalize my plan, and to prepare for the performance of my lifetime. Because tomorrow, Mark and Jessica were going to get their surprise, and it was going to be so much bigger than anything they could imagine. I spent the entire night at my catering kitchen, but I wasn't preparing food. I was preparing justice. First, I called my lawyer, David Martinez, who had handled my business incorporation years ago. It was 3 a.m, but I knew he took emergency calls for his premium clients. Sarah, what's wrong? Is everything all right? David, I need you to do something for me immediately. I need you to freeze all business accounts associated with my catering company and document any unauthorized access attempts in the past 6 months. There was a pause. Sarah, that's a very specific request. Are you having security issues? You could say that. I also need you to prepare restraining orders against my husband Mark Williams and my sister Jessica Chen. And I need you to contact the police about business fraud. I have evidence of forged documents being used to secure business loans. Jesus, Sarah, what happened? I'll explain everything in a few hours. Can you meet me at your office at 6 a.m? Of course. Sarah, are you safe? Do you need somewhere to stay? I looked around my commercial kitchen with its stainless steel surfaces and industrial ovens. This was my sanctuary, my kingdom, my proof that I could build something beautiful from nothing. I'm exactly where I need to be. After hanging up with David, I called my business insurance company, my bank, and my accountant. By dawn, I had created an impenetrable wall around my company. Mark and Jessica's forged documents would trigger fraud alerts the moment they tried to use them. Then, I started cooking. I prepared a feast that would have impressed a five-star restaurant: lobster thermidor, beef Wellington, duck confit, truffle risotto, and a 7-layer chocolate cake that took me 3 hours to assemble. I called it my Last Supper menu, though Mark and Jessica didn't know that yet. At 9 a.m., I sent identical text messages to my husband and sister. "Surprise! I'm throwing Mark an early birthday celebration tonight at the house. Family only, very intimate. See you at 7. I have something very special planned." Mark's birthday wasn't for another month, but I knew they wouldn't question the unexpected party. They'd probably see it as the perfect opportunity to act like everything was normal, while secretly celebrating their upcoming victory. Jessica responded immediately. "How sweet. Can I bring anything?" "Just yourself," I texted back. "I have everything covered." Mark took longer to respond, probably checking with Jessica first. "Wow, babe, you didn't have to do all this. You've been working so hard lately." "You deserve it," I replied. "All your hard work is finally going to pay off." If only he knew how true that was. I spent the day setting up the dining room like a stage. I positioned cameras with better angles, installed professional lighting, and even set up a large monitor screen that I could control from my phone. To anyone else, it would look like I was preparing to record our family dinner for posterity. Which in a way I was. At 5 p.m. I went home to shower and change. Mark was in the living room, looking nervous. "Sarah, about tonight?" "Yes? I just want you to know how much I appreciate everything you do for us, for our family." I studied his face, looking for any trace of genuine remorse or second thoughts. But all I saw was a man who was nervous about getting caught, not a man who regretted his choices. "I know exactly how much you appreciate me, Mark." He shifted uncomfortably but didn't ask what I meant. Jessica arrived first at exactly 7 p.m., carrying a bottle of expensive champagne and wearing a dress I'd never seen before. It was stunning, probably purchased with money from the fraudulent business loan. "Sarah, this is such a wonderful surprise. Mark is so lucky to have you." She hugged me with what seemed like genuine warmth, and for a moment I felt a flicker of doubt. This was my sister, my only sibling, the person who had been my maid of honor at my wedding. Could I really destroy her? Then I remembered her laughing about my Christmas dinner preparations, calling me a little housewife while planning to steal my life's work. "You look beautiful, Jessica." "New dress? Oh, this old thing? I've had it forever." Lie number 1 of the evening. Mark's parents arrived next, followed by his brother Tom and sister-in-law Rebecca. My own parents were traveling, which was perfect for what I had planned. I wanted Mark's family to witness this, not mine. "Sarah, this food is incredible," Mark's mother said as I served the first course. "You've really outdone yourself." "Thank you, Margaret. I wanted tonight to be memorable." Throughout dinner, I watched Mark and Jessica carefully. They were good at hiding their relationship in public, I had to admit. No lingering glances, no secret touches, no inside jokes. If I hadn't seen them together the night before, I might never have suspected, but there were tiny tells. The way Jessica immediately knew how Mark liked his wine served, the way Mark automatically passed her the salt before she asked for it, the way they both avoided looking at each other directly, as if afraid their secret would show on their faces. After the main course, I stood up with my wine glass. "Before dessert, I'd like to make a toast. Mark, we've been married for 15 wonderful years, and I feel like I'm just now getting to know the real you." Everyone raised their glasses, smiling at what they thought was a loving wife's tribute.
"I've learned so much about you lately, about your dreams, your ambitions, your plans for the future."
"And Jessica, you've been such an important part of that discovery. The bond you two have developed over the past few months has been eye-opening." Jessica's glass froze halfway to her lips, and Mark's face went pale. "So I thought, for your birthday celebration, I should share some of the wonderful things I've learned about both of you." I picked up the remote control for the monitor screen and smiled at our confused family members. "I hope you don't mind, but I've been documenting some of your recent activities. I thought everyone would enjoy seeing how close you've become." I pressed play. The screen filled with crystal clear footage of Mark and Jessica in our bedroom, taken just 24 hours earlier. The audio was perfect, capturing every whispered endearment and every detail of their business theft plans. The reaction was immediate and devastating. Mark's mother dropped her wine glass, the red liquid spreading across the white tablecloth like blood. Tom jumped up so quickly his chair fell backward. Rebecca gasped and covered her mouth with both hands. "What the hell is this?" Mark shouted, lunging for the remote. But I was ready for him. I stepped back and kept the video rolling. This is your birthday surprise, darling. I thought your family should see the real you, both of you. Jessica was crying, but not from shame, from rage. You crazy bitch. You recorded us without permission. This is illegal. Actually, I said calmly, recording activities in my own home is perfectly legal, especially when those activities involve planning to defraud my business. On screen, their conversation about stealing my company was playing in clear detail. Mark's father, a retired police officer, was listening with growing horror. Mark, he said slowly, tell me that's not you planning to steal your wife's business. Dad, you don't understand. It's complicated. It sounds pretty simple to me. You're cheating on your wife with her sister and planning to rob her. The video continued, showing months of evidence, their hotel meetings captured by Robert's surveillance, their legal consultations recorded on hidden devices, their forged business documents, photographed and enlarged on screen. 15 years, I said to the room, my voice steady despite the chaos around me. 15 years I loved this man. 25 years I trusted this woman as my sister. 10 years I built a business that they planned to steal from me next week. Mark tried a different approach. Sarah, please, let's discuss this privately. This isn't fair to our families. Fair. I laughed, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. Was it fair when you gave Jessica the key to our house? Was it fair when you used my anniversary earrings to accessorize your affairs? Was it fair when you forged my signature on business documents? Rebecca was staring at Jessica in disgust. You're sleeping with your sister's husband. Jessica, how could you? You don't know what it's like. Jessica screamed. Sarah gets everything. The perfect marriage, the successful business, everyone's respect. I deserved something. So you decided to take my something instead of building your own? Margaret, Mark's mother, was crying now. She'd always treated me like the daughter she never had, helping me plan our wedding, celebrating my business milestones, sending care packages when I worked too many late nights. Sarah, honey, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I know you didn't, Margaret. None of you did. They're very good actors. Tom was recording the whole scene on his phone, and I didn't try to stop him. Let the world see. Let everyone know what kind of people Mark and Jessica really were. The police are already involved, I continued. The business fraud, the forged documents, the identity theft. My lawyer has everything documented. But I wanted you all to see this first, because you deserve to know who you've been defending all these years. Mark was frantic now. Sarah, we can work this out. We can go to counseling, fix our marriage. Our marriage ended the moment you gave another woman my anniversary earrings. It ended when you laughed about my Christmas dinners. It ended when you decided I was dead weight in my own life. The video had finished playing, and the room was silent except for Margaret's quiet crying and Jessica's angry sobbing. There's one more thing, I said, pulling out a folder. Jessica, you should know that the business loan you secured with forged documents, the bank flagged it as fraud this morning. The FBI Financial Crimes Unit will be contacting you tomorrow. Her face went white. You can't do this to me. I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister the moment you decided to destroy my life for fun. I turned to Mark. And you should know that I've frozen all our joint accounts pending the divorce proceedings. The house is in my name only, thanks to my business assets. You have until tomorrow to collect your personal belongings. Where am I supposed to go? I suggest a hotel, preferably not one of the 17 you've already used with my sister. Tom was still recording, his face a mask of disgust. Mark, I can't believe you did this. To Sarah, to our family. This is all her fault. Mark pointed at me wildly. She's always been obsessed with that damn business. She never had time for our marriage. So you decided to steal her business and sleep with her sister. That was your solution to feeling neglected. Rebecca had moved closer to me, offering support. Sarah, if you need somewhere to stay tonight, you're welcome at our house. Thank you, but I'll be fine. I'm staying at my catering kitchen tonight. I have a busy day tomorrow, taking back control of my company and my life. Jessica was still crying, but now she was bargaining. Sarah, please, we can fix this. I'll break up with Mark. We'll call off all the business stuff. Please don't press charges. The charges have already been filed, and it's too late for bargaining. You had months to come clean, to stop what you were doing, to remember that I was your sister and didn't deserve this. Instead, you planned my public humiliation at your birthday party next week. Mark's head snapped up. How did you know about that? I know everything, Mark. Every plan, every lie, every secret meeting. Did you really think you could outsmart me in my own life? I looked around the room at the devastated faces of his family members. People who had welcomed me as their own, who had celebrated my successes and supported me through challenges. I'm sorry you all had to see this. I know it's painful to learn that people you love are capable of such cruelty, but you deserve to know the truth. Margaret wiped her eyes and stood up. Sarah, honey, we're not angry at you. We're angry at them. What they did is unforgivable. It is, agreed Tom. Mark, you're my brother, but what you've done here is disgusting. And Jessica, I've known you for years. I thought you were better than this. Jessica was spiraling now. Everyone always takes Sarah's side. Even when we were kids, she was the perfect one, the responsible one. Mom and Dad always loved her more. Because she earned their love with her actions, Margaret said sharply, not by lying and stealing and betraying the people who cared about her. The evening that was supposed to end with my humiliation had become their complete exposure. Everything they'd planned to do to me had been turned back on them, amplified by the presence of witnesses and permanent documentation. As the family members prepared to leave, each one made a point of hugging me and expressing their support. Mark's father shook his head sadly as he looked at his son. I raised you better than this, Mark. Your mother and I are ashamed. Dad, please. No, there's nothing you can say. You've made your choices, and now you'll live with the consequences. After everyone left, it was just the three of us in the wreckage of the dining room. Broken glass, spilled wine, and the ruins of two people's reputations. This isn't over, Jessica said venomously. I'll fight the charges. I'll tell everyone you're crazy, that you fabricated all of this. Good luck with that. I have months of documented evidence and witnesses who just saw you confess on camera. Mark was slumped in his chair, looking defeated. Sarah, please. I know I messed up, but this will destroy my career, my reputation, everything. Yes, I said simply. It will, just like you planned to destroy mine. But I loved you. Somewhere underneath all the mistakes, I did love you. I looked at this man I'd shared 15 years of my life with, and felt nothing but pity. If this is what your love looks like, Mark, then I'm grateful to be free of it. The next morning, I woke up in my catering kitchen, feeling more rested than I had in months. There's something about the truth finally being exposed that lets you sleep peacefully, even on a makeshift bed of tablecloths in a commercial kitchen. My phone had been buzzing all night with messages of support from Mark's family, but there were also 17 missed calls from Jessica and 9 from Mark. I deleted all their voicemails without listening to them. Whatever they had to say, I wasn't interested in hearing it. By 8 a.m., I was already meeting with David at his law office. He'd spent the early morning hours reviewing all the evidence I'd provided, and his expression was grim. Sarah, this is one of the most comprehensive fraud cases I've ever seen. Between the forged business documents, the identity theft, and the documented conspiracy to steal your company, we're looking at potential federal charges. Good. Are you sure you want to pursue this to the full extent? Once the FBI gets involved, there's no going back. This will destroy both their lives permanently. I thought about Mark laughing as he planned to humiliate me at Jessica's birthday party. I thought about Jessica calling me a little housewife while wearing my anniversary earrings. I thought about them discussing which of my employees to fire after they stole my business. They had months to reconsider their choices. They chose to continue. Now they live with the consequences. David nodded. Then we'll proceed. I've already filed the restraining orders, and the FBI Financial Crimes Unit will be here at 10 to take your statement. The federal agents were thorough and professional. Agent Martinez was a woman about my age who specialized in business fraud cases, and Agent Thompson handled identity theft. They spent 3 hours going through every piece of evidence, every recording, every document. Williams, Agent Martinez said when we finished, I want you to know that this level of premeditation and documentation makes this case very strong. Your husband and sister didn't just commit fraud, they created a criminal enterprise. What happens now? They'll be arrested within the next few hours. Given the amount of money involved and the interstate nature of some of their activities, they'll likely face federal charges. We're looking at potential sentences of 5 to 10 years each. As I left the FBI office, my phone rang. It was Rebecca, Mark's sister-in-law. Sarah, I wanted you to know that Tom posted the video from last night on his social media. It's spreading everywhere. Local news stations are already calling, asking for interviews. I felt a moment of panic. I'd wanted Mark and Jessica exposed, but I hadn't considered becoming a public figure myself. What are they saying? That you're a hero, a strong woman who fought back against people trying to destroy her life. The comments are overwhelmingly supportive. People are sharing their own stories of betrayal and talking about how inspired they are by your courage. That afternoon, I returned to my catering kitchen to find a line of customers waiting outside. Word had spread about what happened, and people were coming to show their support by ordering from my business. "Miss Williams?" A young woman at the front of the line stepped forward. "I'm Jennifer from Channel 7 News. Could we have a few minutes to interview you about what happened?" I almost said no. The last thing I wanted was more public attention. But then I thought about all the other women who might be living with betrayal, who might feel powerless to fight back. 5 minutes, I said, and I want to make one thing clear. This isn't about revenge. This is about justice. The interview aired that evening, and by the next morning, my catering business had more orders than I could handle. Women were driving from 3 states away to buy my food, to shake my hand, to tell me their own stories of surviving betrayal. 2 weeks later, I hired 5 new employees and signed a lease on a second location. A month after that, Jessica pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges in exchange for a reduced sentence of 3 years in prison. Mark fought the charges initially, but when the evidence became public record, he had no choice but to accept a plea deal of 4 years. The day Mark was sentenced, Margaret called me. "Sarah, honey, I know this has been terrible for you, but I want you to know something. Tom's video has been seen by over 2 million people now. You've inspired so many women to stand up for themselves. I never intended for it to go viral. Maybe not, but sometimes the world needs to see what real strength looks like. What you did took incredible courage." That evening, I was closing up my original kitchen when I heard a knock on the door. Through the glass, I could see a tall man with graying hair holding a bouquet of flowers. "We're closed," I called out. "I'm not here for food," he said. "I'm here to meet the woman who's become a legend in my divorce support group." Against my better judgment, I opened the door. "My name is James Patterson. I've been divorced for 2 years after my wife cleaned out our joint accounts and disappeared with her personal trainer. When I saw your story, I wanted to thank you." "Thank me for what?" "For showing people like us that we don't have to be victims, that we can fight back and win." He was handsome in a tired, weathered way, with kind eyes and calloused hands that suggested he worked with them. "What do you do, James?" "I'm a contractor. I build custom kitchens, actually. And I've been following your expansion plans in the news. If you're looking for someone to design your new locations, I'd love to bid on the project." I found myself smiling for the first time in what felt like forever. Not because a man was paying attention to me, but because I was building something new, something bigger than what Mark and Jessica had tried to destroy. "Tell you what," I said, "why don't you come back tomorrow morning? I'll make you breakfast, and you can tell me your ideas for the new kitchen designs." Is that a business meeting or a personal meeting? I considered the question seriously. A year ago, I would have been terrified of trusting another person with my heart or my business. But I'd learned something important. You can't let other people's betrayal make you afraid to live. Let's start with business and see what happens. 6 months later, James and I opened the 3rd location of what was now called Sarah's Kitchen. The grand opening was covered by food magazines and business journals, not because of the scandal that had started it all, but because of the incredible success story it had become. A year after the dinner party that changed everything, I was featured on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine with the headline, "Rising from Betrayal: How One Woman Turned Personal Destruction into Business Empire." The article detailed how my catering company had expanded to 5 locations across 3 states, how we'd become the premier wedding and corporate catering service in the region, and how I'd used my newfound platform to help other women escape abusive relationships and start their own businesses. But my favorite part of the article was the last paragraph. When asked what advice she has for other women facing betrayal, Williams doesn't talk about revenge or getting even. Instead, she says, the best response to someone trying to destroy your life is to build a better one. Success isn't about making them pay for what they did to you. It's about proving that they couldn't break you. 2 years after that horrible anniversary dinner, James proposed to me in the kitchen of our flagship location. He did it while I was prepping for a wedding reception. Flour in my hair and sauce on my apron. "Sarah," he said, getting down on one knee between the prep tables, "you're the strongest, most incredible woman I've ever met. You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into something beautiful. I want to spend the rest of my life supporting your dreams and building new ones together." The ring was simple and elegant, nothing like the flashy diamond Mark had given me 15 years earlier. This one felt right, felt real, felt like it came from someone who actually knew me. "Yes," I said, laughing as my employees cheered from the doorway where they'd been eavesdropping. "But I'm keeping my name. I've worked too hard to build the Sarah Williams brand to change it now. I wouldn't dream of asking you to change it. Our wedding was small and perfect. Margaret, who had become like a mother to me, walked me down the aisle. Tom officiated the ceremony. Rebecca organized the flowers. The people who had supported me through the worst time of my life were there to celebrate the best. Mark and Jessica were not invited. They were both still in prison, and would be for another year. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that Mark had lost his job, and his professional reputation was destroyed. Jessica had been disowned by our parents, who were horrified when they learned what she'd done. Sometimes people asked me if I felt sorry for them, if I regretted pursuing such harsh consequences. The answer was always no. They had made their choices with full knowledge of what they were doing. They had planned to destroy my life for their own gain, and they had laughed about it while doing so. The consequences they faced were the direct result of their own actions, not my revenge. 3 years after the scandal, I was invited to speak at a conference for women entrepreneurs. The audience was packed with women who had started businesses after leaving abusive relationships, after being betrayed by partners, after being told they weren't capable of success. I want to share something with you, I told them. The night I discovered my husband's betrayal, I thought my life was over. I thought 15 years of marriage and 10 years of business building had been wasted. I thought I was a fool who had trusted the wrong people. The room was silent, hundreds of women hanging on every word. But I was wrong. Those 15 years of marriage taught me to be independent, to build something with my own hands, to survive on my own strength. That betrayal didn't break me. It revealed that I had already been strong all along. After my speech, a young woman approached me. She couldn't have been more than 25, with tears in her eyes and determination in her voice. "Miss Williams, my boyfriend has been stealing money from the business we started together. He thinks I don't know, but I have evidence. I was afraid to confront him because I thought it would destroy everything we built. But after hearing you speak, document everything," I told her. "Protect your assets. And remember that a business built on lies isn't worth saving. But you are worth saving. Your dreams are worth fighting for." She nodded, squared her shoulders, and walked away with purpose. That night, as James and I sat in our living room planning our upcoming vacation to Italy, I reflected on how much my life had changed. The woman who had been afraid to confront her cheating husband had become someone who inspired others to fight for themselves. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Mark and Jessica had succeeded?" James asked, as if reading my thoughts. "Sometimes. But then I remember that they couldn't have succeeded, because their plan was built on a fundamental misunderstanding of who I am." "What do you mean?" "They thought I was weak, that I was too trusting and naive to fight back. They thought my kindness was weakness, and my dedication was stupidity. They never understood that the same strength that built my business could be used to defend it." James smiled and pulled me closer. Their loss was the world's gain, and definitely my gain. As I write this story, 5 years have passed since that anniversary dinner. Sarah's Kitchen now has 12 locations across 5 states. We employ over 200 people, mostly women, many of whom are building new lives after their own experiences with betrayal or abuse. James and I have been married for 3 years, and we have a daughter named Hope, who is learning to bake alongside me in our test kitchen. She'll grow up knowing that she can build anything she dreams of, and that she never has to accept less than she deserves from the people who claim to love her. Mark was released from prison last year. I heard he moved to another state and works in a warehouse now. He tried to contact me once through social media, but I blocked him immediately. We have nothing to say to each other. Jessica served her full sentence and was released 6 months ago. She also tried to reach out, sending a long letter about how sorry she was and how she'd found God in prison. I threw the letter away without reading past the first paragraph. Some betrayals are too deep for forgiveness, and some relationships can't be repaired. But I don't hate them anymore. Hate is a heavy burden, and I have better things to carry. Instead, I wake up every morning grateful for the life I've built. Grateful for the husband who loves and respects me. Grateful for the daughter who will never doubt her own worth. Grateful for the business that gives me purpose and employs women who needed a second chance. Most of all, I'm grateful that I learned the difference between love and possession, between partnership and exploitation, between trust and naivety. The surprise I gave Mark and Jessica that night wasn't really revenge, it was revelation. It revealed who they really were, who I really was, and what I was truly capable of. And the biggest surprise of all, discovering that losing everything I thought I wanted gave me everything I actually needed. Did you like my story? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and share this with anyone who needs to hear that they're stronger than they know. If you want to support my channel so I can keep sharing stories of women who refuse to be broken, please hit that like button and subscribe. Remember, your story isn't over just because someone tried to write the ending for you. You get to decide how it ends, and sometimes the best endings are really just the beginning of something even better.